Welcome, I'm Barrie-Louise Switzen, and my show is The Woman's Connection. The Woman's Connection is a program about women who've had challenges and obstacles in their lives. But more important, it's what they've done about it. At 26, our guest today had it all. A part on a daytime soap, making $150,000, having achieved what she thought life was all about, and discovered it wasn't enough. Gave it all up while trying to find the answers. Let us welcome Beth Chamberlain and find out where she is today. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, I'm delighted.
Tell us, what have you achieved, all right?
Well, I've done over 50 national commercials. I was, as you just said, a leading lady on The Guiding Light, a New York soap. Some films, actually I have a film coming out and should be out within 6 months, so let's
great.
hope. And then basically episodic work, and when I say that I mean dramatic series, Columbo, Silk Stockings, that type of thing. I've done those types of things.
Now, you went from obscurity to a leading lady part on Guiding Light.
Yes. I was making a living doing commercials, but what I really wanted to do was I wanted to be a dramatic actress, have a role on a show, which is what everyone wants, of course. And nothing was happening for me in that area. I had auditions, but I just wasn't able to get the actual role.
Well, how did you get it?
Well, what happened was in December of '88, an ex-boyfriend of mine had this book, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And I picked it up and started reading it, and I thought, wow, this is a pretty interesting book. And it was really talking about changing your thought patterns and positive imagery. And so I started following the techniques that she outlined in the book. Well, can I tell you that my life changed so dramatically? I went from having had only one screen test in my life at that point to within the next 6 months having 5 screen tests.
My God.
And the final screen test being Guiding Light, in which they moved me to New York at that point to be a leading lady on this soap. So
what was your, tell us your secret here. I mean, what were you doing as far as positive imaging?
What basically happened was, one of the things that she said that I found particularly interesting in her book was that we all have this negative monologue, chatter going on in our head all the time. And when I first read that, I thought, well, I don't. But she said, well, pay attention. So I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. I started to notice that, yes, I in fact did have this negative chatter going on in my head that sounded something like, you idiot, why did you say that, you idiot, why did you make that?
That sounds familiar. Yeah. Open mouth, insert foot. I'm very well known for that.
And it's just sort of ongoing. And what she suggests is you take control of it and use that ongoing monologue to condition yourself for whatever you desire. In my case, it was success, by implanting positive thoughts, continually affirmating. And
so what'd you tell yourself?
I was saying, I'm a successful actress. I have my perfect acting job. And I literally went around all day, not other people couldn't hear me say this, thank God, but walking around and driving in my car, I was in LA at the time, all day long, saying this to myself, and until actually it would be going on in my head without me even thinking about it. But what happens in that situation when you start doing that is that by changing your thinking, you start to behave differently. You start to suddenly act like you're successful and doing well, and other people perceive you as that way. So.
No, I like that. But how long did it take you? I mean, you said you started doing it all day long, when you obviously to yourself, as you said, but how long did it take before things started to manifest?
Within a month.
Within a month?
Well, I had my first screen test, I would say February, it was right around the 1st of February, and I picked up the book, it was in December of '88, and February of '89. I, in fact, screen tested for 2 things in February, and then 3 things until up until July, the middle of July. I can't remember, but in July was when I was cast in the soap.
So for 30 days, basically, you were saying, "I'm a successful leading lady. I am a success."
Yes, and well, what started to happen is that I had myself so convinced of this. I was sort of, you're brainwashing yourself for success, basically. I woke up every morning, I had myself so convinced that I woke up every morning and I'd say, today could be the day. I might actually get that role today that I'm waiting for. I just believed this. And if anyone said anything negative to me at the time, I couldn't even compute it I was so positive. And consequently, when I went into my auditions, my attitude was, I'm gonna get this role. If you don't hire me, you're crazy. And of course, people said, "Oh, maybe she's right." So they screamed.
What has she got that we want to know about?
Exactly. That's sort of what happened.
Fabulous. So, how long were you on Guiding Light?
I was on Guiding Light for 2 years, and that's the funny part of the story. Actually, not funny, sad.
Should we show us a clip of your Guiding Light part?
Right, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and show that so people have an idea of what it was.
Because I don't watch soaps, I hate to say it. You get hooked on it. I remember in high school, I would come home from school and immediately turn on the soaps from 12 to 1, and it was like you can't do anything else with your life. And I know I had a secretary who would go crazy between 12 and 1 because she couldn't watch her soaps, and then she finally got a VCR so then she could tape the show.
But it is addictive. It can be
very addictive. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
and that's wild. Yeah. But it's good for the soaps. It's good for the commercials.
Well, yes, it is. Yeah, it's good for the commercials that play during that time, which I have those as well. So.
Are we ready for the roll-in? Okay, that'd be coming.
Beth, you've got to stop this. You've got to be more careful.
Oh, she deserved it. Did you see her in there? Alan Michael's barely holding it together and she's busy playing Camille. Alan Michael lost his brother. Philip is dead. What does she care about? Me?
Philip is not dead. Philip is not dead, okay?
It's just so hard.
It's going to be a few more weeks, honey. That's all, okay?
I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here.
Wow.
That's it.
How did it make you cry, or did you just get so emotional about it?
Well, oftentimes when you have scenes like that, you cry because of the emotion of the scene. But then there are times that you have scenes where you're supposed to be crying in the scene, and you have to work up tears, but it doesn't strike you as emotional, and for that you have to have some technical ability to do that, and that just comes with acting classes, learning how to do that sort of thing.
Wow. And you did this for how long again?
2 years.
And then what happened?
Well, what happened while I was on the soap, actually, was once I got on the soap, I said, well, I don't need that positive stuff anymore because
you're already there.
I'm successul. I'm doing well. And about a year later, I was very depressed and very insecure. I was going to therapy every day of the week, practically. And I couldn't quite figure out what was wrong. I thought, gee, I'm so successful and I should be happy.
Right, you're wearing these Armani and Schmarni clothes and you're making $150,000. I would think you'd be successful and happy.
Yes, one would think so. The question that kept coming up for me, though, was what am I doing for humanity? I kept thinking, gee, how am I changing the world? What am I doing that really matters? I'm not performing brain surgery here. And it really bothered me.
Oh, interesting.
And that really started me, I call it my midlife crisis.
At 26, 28.
But I feel that that's in a way what happened because I wasn't in a position where I had anyone depending on me. I was single, I had no husband, no children, no one depending on me. So I wasn't quite sure what the purpose of it all was. And that really started me on a downward spiral for about 4 years where I was confused.
But then how come you didn't start picking up your affirmations or your positive thinking again?
Well, yes, I kept thinking, gee, I should start thinking positively again since I know that works. And the reason that I didn't do that was, again, because I kept thinking it doesn't matter whether I'm successful, I need to find a purpose. And so for 4 years, basically, I went back to school. I was trying this job and that job and something else, and everything felt like I was putting on the wrong shoe.
Oh, my.
It just didn't feel right. And I also kept asking myself, well, what is this doing that has a purpose? I couldn't figure out what my purpose was, and it made everything seem empty for me, I would say.
Interesting, because I know I get involved in so many charities. Did you do I'm sure you did some charity work and everything else.
I did some charity work, but again, I think what was coming to me was it's not helping. I felt that I wasn't helping on the mass
scale
that I wanted to be helping on.
So you were pretty low for 4 years there.
For 4 years, for 4 long years, I was low, and
then what happened? I mean,
starting to come back from it was really in part meeting my husband. I was actually, again, I was in a terrible relationship, and I thought that it was not physically, but was very emotionally abusive. And I said, gee, I've got to think positively now to get out of this thing and find something good. And so I literally started thinking, imagining myself with what I would consider my perfect mate. And about 6 months after I started that, I did meet my perfect mate, but I didn't.
This took longer then.
No, it took 6 months. It took 6 months to actually get the job the first time.
Right,
and 6 months the second time to actually get the mate. But I didn't realize it at the time. He had to convince me that he was the perfect mate, but he was. And through him, he really made me see that I wasn't reaching my potential.
Oh, how nice.
That I not only wasn't reaching my potential, but this search for a purpose was leaving me with a meaningless life, which is sort of an interesting situation. And from there is when I really said, okay, I've got to answer this question. I've got to find somewhere the answer to what is my purpose. And
you found it?
I finally found it. Yes,
okay.
I did.
You want to share it with us?
No, I'm actually not going to share it with you because I would rather walk my talk than just talk my talk.
Okay.
You understand?
I
Sometimes
understand.
we confuse talking for action. And also, at this point, because it's fairly new in me trying to do this, that it has to gain some power in a way before I'm sort of spreading it around with the world. But in any case, I can tell you a way of finding your purpose.
Oh, super. Okay.
Ken Blanchard has he's written The 1 Minute Manager and Personal Excellence. And he has a wonderful way of finding your purpose. And that is writing your own obituary. As morbid as that sounds, what I first did was I wrote my obituary how it would be now, which I thought, oh, well, that's depressing. And then I wrote it how I would love for it to be. And how I would love people to remember me. And that made it very clear what I had to do with my life. And it also made it clear for me that acting was, in fact, part of my purpose. It was part of what could bring my purpose to reality. So that is a wonderful way of finding purpose. And while we're on this, actually, there is a wonderful book. If people haven't read it, if you haven't read it, it's fabulous to pick up. It's by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. And in it, he was in concentration camps in World War II, and he was a psychiatrist. And what he started to notice was the people that could withstand the horrors and had a will to live through these concentration camps were the people that had a purpose for getting out. And their purpose might be to get out and tell the world what happened so that this would never happen again, or maybe it was a child, or maybe it was an unfinished manuscript. It might be anything, but those were the people that were able to endure anything because they had a purpose in their life beyond this. So it tells you what purpose does for you.
It certainly does. I mean, that is pretty powerful.
Yes. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. So
you recommend it?
Yes, it really changed things around for me.
So now do you do positive imaging and?
Yes. Once I realized my purpose, it made it very easy for me to start going about my work again as an actress, because I had a reason for doing it. Just when you're thinking that you're doing something only for self-glorification, you start to feel pretty selfish and you start to question yourself. And when you feel like you're doing something that has meaning outside of you, it makes everything more interesting.
Now, you lived in L.A., and now you're back here in New York.
Yes.
Was that part of your purpose, too, or?
No, I wouldn't say so. That was earthquake.
No.
my husband, I had convinced him to move out to California, and he was from New York. I convinced him to move out there. He was out there for about 6 months, and the earthquake hit. And he looked at me and said, I don't think so. So we moved back here, and it was actually a most wonderful thing for me because I'm from the Northeast. And I love living in New York, and I feel
alive?
I feel alive and at home here that I never felt in LA. So.
Well, it also sounds like you've got a mate to help you feel alive. Not so much help you, but share your joy and your life.
Yes, and
with.
also let me know when I'm falling off track.
Oh,
too,
that's even better.
Which is wonderful. That's what partners can do for one another. So, but I'll tell you. I don't know if you're interested, but I'll also tell you what. Putting a purpose together, since I'm not sharing my purpose with you.
Okay, let's put a purpose
I will
together.
tell you
Okay.
What a purpose should involve.
Sounds great.
What a purpose should involve is something outside yourself, something that you're doing that you can do on a daily basis for other people or another person or thing, but something
example?
outside of yourself. Well, in my case, I say humanity, but it might be for someone, it might be their child, it might be their wife or their husband or their mother or father. For me, I say humanity because I was interested in helping on a large scale. So
Are you an
that's what I'm
Aquarian?
trying to do. No.
Oh, okay. I'm an Aquarian, and that's basically what we do is help humanity. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
No,
all right.
I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm a Libra.
Oh,
So it should have something to
that's
do with
the
other
balancing
people.
sign, the Libra.
Yes.
Okay.
And maybe that's, yes, you're right. So it should have something to do with other people. It should have something to do with a higher power, however you view that, if you view it as God or if you're not comfortable with that term, whatever term that you're comfortable with, has something to do with that so that you feel that you've got other help. It's something just besides you there doing this this purpose. And it should have something to do with something you really enjoy. For me, it's acting, so that is a part of it. I felt that because I enjoyed it so much that it couldn't possibly have meaning for the world and couldn't help the world in any way. But in fact...
So you've come around Robin now.
Exactly,
Well, that's
exactly.
great.
And I think, in fact, whatever you really enjoy, you were probably given that capacity to enjoy it for a reason. And for me, it's acting. For you,
Which is a great talent.
Exactly. I mean, which I enjoy very much.
So you've got a movie coming out, you've done commercials, and
Yes.
you're on the road to higher success than where you were.
For higher success than where I was, but also on the road to just having this a purpose in mind, so that I'm always being careful
focused.
that I'm doing something for people outside of myself. But yes, I do have this movie that should be out, I hope, in 6 months or something like that. They're just finishing up post-production now. So
I can't wait.
Yes, upward and onward. Now that I know where I'm going, it's. I think the hardest thing is finding a purpose. Once you find a purpose, it's very easy to follow that.
Do you find that actors and actresses don't have a purpose, and that's one of the reasons they have it's such a difficult field to be in to begin with? And
Yes, it is a very.
going out on auditions, you're constantly selling yourselves. Do you feel that they might be giving them too many negative
Too much negative feedback.
feedback within themselves? You know, you can't. It's like there's a
absolutely.
book. I think you can't afford a negative thought.
Yes.
And that's what holds them back. Well, I'm not going to get it, so why should I try? And they don't
Absolutely.
put forth.
I think that actors, I think everyone in any high pressure, highly competitive field has everybody telling you why you can't make it. You have very few people telling you why you can make it. And what's really important, I think what I learned from this Louise Hay book, was what's very, very important is to always keep in mind why you can do it and why you will do it. And refuse to listen to all of these people that are telling you can't do it, because that's the easy part. Finding why you
Cop
can't
out.
do it, yes, is the easy part. And in fact, it is in a way, because I've really come to the conclusion that anything we desire to be, we really have the capacity to be if we're willing to continue on, persevere until we get the results that we're after.
Plus, with all our positive feedback.
With the
and
positive-
with your acting like you have whatever you want, can help you speed the process along.
Absolutely. Not just speed it along, I think it changes everything. We've all seen people that walk down the street and they think they're beautiful, or they think they're funny, or they think they're smart, and you say to yourself, if you scrutinize them, you say, well, they're not beautiful, or they're not funny or they're not smart, but they think they are so much that we believe that they are too. And
that's important.
And I think that's important. It's important in every aspect of your life, but it's certainly important if you're in a competitive field, like acting.
I was going to say something, and all of a sudden, my mind went blank. What was I going to say? Go ahead.
I was just going to say to you that I was imagining for you some positive imagery.
Sounds good to me.
For you.
Okay,
so,
go.
Because I also had, I'll tell you a quick story that only New Yorkers will really appreciate, is before I was thinking positively, I also had this image in my head before I ever got the soap in that 6-month period there. And I would imagine myself sitting in my perfect apartment working on scripts. So when I got this role on Guiding Light, they moved me back to New York, and within a week I had that perfect apartment that I'd been picturing all along in my head. I mean, to a T. In fact, it was the third apartment I looked at. I didn't just have it, I'd moved into it within a week. So that tells you it was pretty powerful. And in fact, even with my husband, I was envisioning this perfect man in a snow-covered house. Well, lo and behold, we end up living back here.
For heaven's sakes.
But for your imagery,
yes.
I was just going to say, you have this wonderful show here. I was just imagining you on a show with a huge audience and gorgeous leather chairs and very important, exciting guests for you, so that someday
I like that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Everybody clapping too, of course.
I can see that. That's great.
So, yes, I was thinking, I just had a snapshot that I carried, not a snapshot in my head that I just carried around and sort of kept me on course. So.
When you were going through this, when you were going, let's see, you were on the Guiding Light.
Yes.
Then you left the Guiding Light and you went to pursue your purpose. Mm-hmm. Did you find your friends changed?
I found my friends changed. I found my friends changed actually more when I got on the soap than they did when I came off the soap.
Because they were jealous?
Well, there are some people, and I think that you have to be careful about this. There are some people that don't want to be around you when you're doing really well. Interestingly enough, what I did find was it wasn't the people that came out of the woodwork and started calling me when I was on the soap and saying, "Hey, remember what good friends we are?" It was the people that stopped being my friend.
Oh, how interesting.
Those were the people that I was really hurt by. So that was sort of an interesting realization. And then the people that were with me when I was riding high on the soap, when I went through my struggles, were with me as well for the most part.
Those what you would call good, true friends.
True friends, yes, exactly.
Because I know it's, if you're doing poorly, you've got somebody to commiserate with, but if they're successful and you're not, it's like you don't feel adequate or something.
Yeah, exactly. That I think that does happen with people, and I think you have to be careful about that and say to yourself, if someone isn't being your friend when you're successful, or they're wanting to keep you down in whatever way, whether it's saying, "Hey, come on, continue smoking with me," or whatever, then you have to analyze that and analyze if you need that friendship in your life any longer.
And usually you don't.
And
it's time to move on.
Yes, it absolutely is.
What would you say to the audience in the closing moments of the show, as far as anything?
Well, I would say a couple of things. One is, I absolutely believe that you can be whatever you want to be, as long as your thinking is in the right place. Because mm-hmm. thinking translates to feeling, and feeling translates to perception, and you really can change your life in that long. I'd also say that unless you have a purpose for changing your life, you might find that it's not so fulfilling once you get there. So it's best to find out what that purpose is before you head bravely off in the direction.
So write your obituary before.
Yes, write your obituary.
Start backwards.
Yes, or go
Well, I can
forward.
see me on a big spread on the New York Times page here, and everybody's going to say, "My God, look at what she's accomplished in her lifetime," and I like that thought.
Well, it makes you realize you have to get busy.
It certainly does. I mean,
it actually, I don't know if we have time for this, but Ken Blanchard was telling how originally he got the idea because Alfred Nobel, his brother died, and when his brother died, Alfred went to see what was said about his brother, and he picked up the obituary, and by mistake they wrote an obituary for Alfred.
No.
And Alfred at the time, his biggest accomplishment was that he had been involved in making dynamite. So they talked about how he was instrumental in all this destruction in his obituary, and he was so upset by it that he brought his family together and said, well, I want to be known for the opposite of destruction, so what is that? And everybody, of course, said peace. And that is, in fact, what we know him for.
The Peace Awards and everything else.
Is peace now.
Oh, that's great.
So...
Well, I guess we all have to get busy or something here. Do a little bit more peace, and let's forget about the destruction in the world here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just goes to show that in his life, he was so known for destruction. And certainly, many of us wouldn't even know that he was instrumental in...
I didn't know until you just told me.
And inventing dynamite. So, because he so changed his life around. So it just tells you what you can do, even at an advanced age.
Well, thanks a lot. How old is he?
No, I didn't mean you.
That's okay. I'm a very old soul, so that's all right. I've been reincarnated so many times it doesn't matter.
Okay.
I'm on I'm now on my spiritual quest for the last time or whatever, and we'll do peace around the world. And
oh, good. So maybe we can get in on this together.
Absolutely.
Peace around the world, yes.
Let's see, Barrie and Beth, B&B, peace.
Yeah, sort of like a Mother Teresa kind of, but a duo.
Right.
Yeah.
B&B, like the liquor or something. Well, I really appreciate you coming, Beth. It's been wonderful having you and hearing about your... I know you won't tell us your purpose, but I'm sure we'll find out in the
I
near
hope, by the
future.
way that I live my life, that I won't need to tell people my purpose, because the people, at least that know me, I hope that they will see what my purpose is.
Oh, I think that's great. Thank you again. Thank you so much for joining us. It's because of people like you that allow people like me to have a television show. I would really appreciate to hear from you. The Woman's Connection can be written at Ansonia Station, Post Office Box 918, New York, New York 10023. Thank you.